The curse of the moon goddess, the forgotten rite. The one who looked into the shadowed moonlight felt colder that night, not in temperature, but in presence, as if it watched. Nevahir, Central Turkey. The town lay quiet under a flickering power outage, 3 days long, but this night was different. No wind, no clouds, only the full moon silent and sharp. And across the village, people were turning their mirrors to face the walls. Ezra Demir, a 35-year-old archaeologist, had been mapping underground tunnels in Cappadocia for over a year. But what he found this week wasn't on any map. Etched on an ancient limestone slab, hidden behind collapsed stone, those who look upon the faceless goddess lose their shadows. The symbols were clear. Hittite cuneiform, but there was no record of such a deity in any archive. He sent a photo to his mentor, Professor Arda Yilmaz, a renowned expert in Anatolian religions. The professor replied with just 3 words: "Forget this." Immediately. Ezra didn't. He couldn't. The slab's edge showed signs of a sealed passage, a collapsed entrance, and a strange, constant trickle of cold air flowing from behind it. It smelled like burnt clay and forgotten rituals. Ezra returned that night, with only a flashlight and a worn notebook. He crawled in. The chamber inside wasn't large, but it was alive with silence. Smooth walls, carved symbols, circular patterns, the kind used in ritual spaces. But one thing stood out: a mirror. Standing alone at the far end of the chamber, cracked, stained with dried red pigment, and reflecting 2 shadows. Ezra froze. He turned. No one behind him. He turned back. We're still just shadows. He left the cave without speaking a word. At home, he sat in front of his bathroom mirror. Steam from a warm shower fogged the glass. He reached up to wipe it, but his hand never touched the surface, because in the blur of the mist he saw the silhouette of a woman, pale, faceless, standing behind him. He spun around. Nothing. The mirror cracked. A fine fracture ran across it, forming a perfect crescent. At the center of the crack, a symbol began to appear. The Hittite seal, a name unspoken. Next morning, the professor couldn't be reached. His phone was dead. His house locked, but in Ezra's inbox, a video appeared. Timestamped. 3:06 a.m. File name. Watch under moonlight only. Ezra waited until nightfall, then played the file. The professor sat alone, candlelit, eyes wide. Behind him, a painting. A woman with no eyes, hands raised to the sky. Shadow behind her twisted like a serpent. You've seen her now, the professor whispered. She'll show you yourself, but it won't be your reflection. It will be what's left of you. Then the video glitched. Cut to static. End. Ezra stared into the screen. But what disturbed him wasn't the professor's words. It was the reflection of his own webcam. There was something behind him, something that didn't move when he did. That night, the moon rose higher than ever. Ezra packed his bag, notebook, flashlight, camera. He returned to the cave. But this time, his shadow didn't follow him inside. Beneath the shadow of the moon, when Ezra stepped into the cave, silence greeted him. But it wasn't the kind of silence born of still air. It was deeper, as if something beneath the stone was holding its breath. As his flashlight hit the walls, strange symbols lit up, circular, repetitive, ritualistic. But one of them stood apart beneath it, an ancient warning. Do not speak her name 3 times. The deeper Ezra went, the heavier the air felt. Moist, not with water, but with something alive. The kind of dampness that clings like breath on skin. And then his flashlight blinked and died. Darkness. Ezra froze. Then from a crack in the ceiling above, moonlight spilled down a single, narrow beam. And in that light, something began to move. Not stone, a shadow. Her shadow, the faceless woman. She turned. Slowly, Ezra didn't move. But the shadow did. She walked toward him. Suddenly, the camera in Ezra's pocket powered on by itself. Recording, the screen lit up with a single phrase. What lives off record is real. Ezra took a step back. The shadow mirrored him. No eyes, no face. But somehow it whispered. He couldn't understand the words. But something inside him shifted. His heartbeat changed. A pressure in his chest. A burn in his throat. Then he saw it. His shadow was gone. He didn't run. He reached for the stone wall behind him. The surface felt soft, almost warm. His hand sank through it, and for a moment the cave disappeared. He now stood in a vast stone circle. 12 columns surrounded him, each etched with different ancient symbols. At the center, a massive mirror, but it wasn't made of glass. It looked like liquid black water. Ezra stepped toward it, looked in. But what stared back was not Ezra. The reflection had no eyes. Its mouth was sealed shut, and on its forehead the ancient seal glowed. Ezra stepped back. The black surface rippled, like something inside was about to break through, and the same whisper returned, this time clearer. As the moon rises, remember who you are. Darkness fell again. Ezra gasped it in, found himself back inside the cave. But now he wasn't alone. Footsteps echoed behind him, soft, measured, getting closer, and his shadow was still missing, the shadowless ones. When Ezra stood deep within the cave, the footsteps behind him stopped. He held his breath, but even his own breath felt silent, because he wasn't alone anymore. A whisper echoed, but it wasn't just one voice. It was many. Male, female, old, young, 1,000 voices murmuring as one. They weren't speaking. They were chanting. A ritual. The words blurred together like waves. Ezra closed his eyes. Only one thought pulsed through him. This is a rite. When he opened them again, a figure stood at the center of the stone ring, illuminated by the moonlight, clad in long white robes, face hidden. Its hands folded together, no shadow, just like Ezra. The figure slowly lifted its head, still faceless. But Ezra noticed something, a pendant around the figure's neck. The same symbol burned into the stone, and a voice, not spoken but heard directly in his mind. You are one of the shadowless now. Once you've seen her, you can't walk apart from your shadow. But you can choose to follow your shadow, or become it. Ezra stepped back, but the ritual had begun. The walls pulsed, the symbols glowed, the crack in the ceiling widened. Through it, a red light spilled down, the color of blood. The faceless figure knelt, raised its hands to the sky, began to pray in complete silence. Ezra couldn't look away from the mirror. The black liquid still rippled. But now faces began to emerge from its surface. The shadowless, he recognized some of them. Professor Arda, his uncle missing since Ezra was a boy. An old historian he once interviewed. All of them people who vanished from reality. And then a voice rose from the mirror. They were the ones who spoke her name 3 times. Ezra froze. Had he done the same? He remembered. He typed it once in the email, spoke it aloud in the cave, spurted in front of the mirror. 3 times. From the surface of the black mirror, a hand emerged, human-shaped but wrong. Dark as ash, fingers trembling, nails long, cracked. It reached toward him. Ezra didn't move, because he understood now. This was the choice. This was the right. Remain shadowless, or give his face to the goddess. The moonlight flared. White light filled the entire chamber. The voices ceased. Time itself fell silent, and Ezra made his decision. The final rite. Ezra closed his eyes. As the moonlight cut across his skin like a blade, he felt a weight in his chest, as if something inside him was being torn away. The hand reaching from the black mirror was still there. But now, it no longer trembled. Calm, steady, waiting for a choice. Ezra took a deep breath, stepped forward, and reached out. The moment his fingers touched the liquid black surface, everything changed. He was no longer in the cave. The sky above stretched into infinity. The moon hung like a colossal eye, watching from above. Ezra stood at the center of a stone platform, surrounded by flames that didn't burn. And across from him stood the moon goddess, sel-anatu, a crown shaped like crescent horns. Her face still hidden, but the absence of eyes radiated awareness. Her hands were open. In her palms, symbols spun like constellations, and the symbols began to speak in Ezra's own voice. Who was I? How long has she been watching me? Why did my shadow leave me first? The goddess never stepped forward, but inside Ezra's mind visions exploded. Memories from a childhood he didn't recall, dreams he'd forgotten, graves he had never seen. And in all of them, a mirror, a shadow, a name whispered beneath moonlight. Sel-anatu. Ezra fell to his knees. A sharp pain surged down his spine. His bones cracked. His eyes burned. But he didn't fear it, because now he understood. This goddess wasn't cursed. She was forgotten. And to remain, she had taken the faces of those who remembered her. The moonlight intensified. Sel-anatu approached. She touched Ezra's face, but not physically. She touched his memories. Why people fear their shadows, but what they should fear is the emptiness inside, said a voice. A scream tore through the air, but it wasn't Ezra's. It came from inside the mirror. In a flash, Ezra was back in the cave. But everything had changed. The symbols on the walls were gone. No more moonlight. The mirror shattered, and Ezra had been reunited with his shadow. He stood, unafraid, and whispered only one thing. I remembered you. There's no need for anyone else. That night, every mirror in the town cracked. The next morning, the sky was clear, but the moon was gone. No one ever spoke sel-anatu's name again. But sometimes when someone stares too long into a mirror, and their shadow moves before they do, that's when the forgotten rite begins again. If your shadow ever moves when you don't, it means someone else is watching. Subscribe, like. Some stories aren't told to entertain, or told so we never forget.